Good evening. I'm Jonathan Knight. I'm a master's student in the in the landscape architecture program here at K-State. In 2012, I was completing my first round of graduate studies in the Department of Landscape Architecture and Regional and Community Planning. During that year, I was part of an interdisciplinary, collaborative master's report group entitled Landscapes of Learning. This group analyzed and designed landscapes related to schools, childhood development and learning, and the relationship between nature and children. This group was led by Kingery Page, Associate Professor of Landscape Architecture and Regional and Community Planning. Her academic research focuses on the interaction of art and landscape as well as service learning projects. She utilizes an inclusive design process, bringing marginalized voices into design discourse. Katie is a licensed landscape architect, and her recent work includes the meadow north of the Beach Art Museum. In this talk, Professor Kingery Page will argue that landscape architecture is uniquely positioned to enhance the lives of our children and the environment that they spend most of the time in schools. Since 2012, Katie has been a huge mentor to me, and I'm just so honored to be able to be here tonight and introduce you to her. So without further ado, please help me welcome Katie Kingery Page.
I'm grateful to Jonathan for that wonderful introduction. I'd like to dedicate my 6 minutes with you tonight to all the people who work in our Kansas public schools. I'm here to talk to you about why, good. I'm here to talk to you about why we need the landscape idea in public schoolyards. Let's start by defining the problem. In the United States, more than 34 million children are enrolled in elementary schools. This is defined as pre-kindergarten through 8th grade. These kids spend approximately 7 hours per day in the school environment. That doesn't include any time that might be spent in before or after school programs. Depending on their age and other factors, a kid might spend anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours in the schoolyard per day. And let's take a look at where they're spending their time. Many public schoolyards are featureless expanses of asphalt or of turf grass. Really, neither is significantly better in terms of embracing the child as a whole person. Enter the landscape idea. This phrase was coined by cultural geographer Dennis Cosgrove in his attempts to define what landscape is. He noted that landscape is elusive because it's a way of seeing the world, and because it's culturally constructed, the notion of landscape contains many layered meanings. So when I talk to you about the landscape idea for public schoolyards, I'm not referring to any one aesthetic, any one set of elements, or even just one idea, but rather to a whole set of ideas that could embrace the child as a whole person. Like other people, children experience stress, and they deserve psychologically restorative environments. One landscape idea for public schools is the restorative landscape. Attention restoration theory proposes that the time we spend in our daily lives in directed, focused attention creates a sense of fatigue or stress. That fatigue or stress can be alleviated by time spent in natural settings. But to be restorative, a natural setting has to have sufficient complexity. It has to be compatible with a person's basic needs, which in a schoolyard could mean places to sit, a firm path, shade in the heat of the day, or any other number of provisions. To be restorative, the setting has to connect a person to an extensive feeling of a larger landscape. And it has to give a person a sense of being away from those mundane and stressful tasks of their everyday experiences. So these kind of settings have the potential to recharge us and restore our ability to use our focused attention. Oops, sorry, let me go back. You might be thinking at this point, this all sounds really great. Let's have better schoolyard landscapes. But how do we argue for that? In the face of diminishing support for public education, how do we argue for investing in that outdoor environment when so many important things are going on inside of a schoolyard? Well, school districts around the country are doing it. Boston and San Francisco have both passed major initiatives to invest in outdoor learning in their schoolyards. Denver Public Schools, in collaboration with a local university, has invested in reinventing all 90 plus of their elementary schoolyards over the past decade. I could argue for the child as the whole person, or for the benefits of experiential learning. At this point, attention restoration is more than a theory. Studies have shown the benefits of time in a complex green setting for children and youth, including those with special needs. Experiential learning is commonly understood to be the use of problems-based or applied learning to explore abstract and complex ideas. Some of the documented benefits of experiential learning outdoors in a schoolyard include increased test scores, enhanced ability to promote environmental stewardship on the part of the child, and also reaching a variety of learners with different learning styles. I could even just argue for the landscape idea in public schoolyards on the basis of creating cooler places to do free play, which has been shown to be as beneficial as structured PE for children, and also it's significant in the development of focused attention to do complex thinking and learning. In the interest of promoting better schoolyards, over the past 7 years, my students and I, including students like Jonathan Knight, have engaged with a variety of schools in our local district. We've designed creative schoolyards intended for experiential learning, for inclusive play for all children, schoolyards intended to accommodate a variety of activities and even serve as public parks, and always with that focus upon creative free play. With help from K-State's Center for Engagement and Community Development, my colleagues and I were even successful in helping one local school design and build a learning garden. But unfortunately, most of these designs remain unbuilt, with a lack of funding to instruct them. And even if they could be constructed, there's no resources for staff to help maintain this kind of schoolyard. So I ask you, let's consider how much we can give our children, not how little, and let's give our children the landscape idea in public schoolyards. Thank you.